Folks, the name Swift makes you think fast, nimble, like a shadow darting through the city. But when I saw the 2025 model in person, my first impression wasn't street racer. It was more like urban sweetheart. Light, graceful, and kind of polite. I mean, this is clearly not the type of car trying to flex as some loud, wild stallion. It's more of a courteous, compact, and charming daily buddy. The kind that even your friendly neighbor would want to take a selfie with. Now here's the twist. The 2025 Swift isn't just a facelift. Suzuki has dropped in a new generation mild hybrid heart, a 1.2-liter 3-cylinder paired with a light electric motor. Sounds tame, right? But in reality, it's perfectly capable for city driving without feeling out of breath. On paper, it sips fuel like a budget commuter, but gives you that little electric push when you feel like making a quick getaway. Calm down. Accelerating, not running from the cops. Fuel economy? Around 4-point-something liters per 100 kilometers, which means your monthly gas bill could be less than your weekend coffee runs. What I love here is the balance. Just enough tech to feel like you're living in 2025, but without stuffing it with flashy gimmicks that skyrocket the price. Look at the ADAS safety list. Automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring, traffic sign recognition. All features you'd normally find on pricier cars. And the small footprint still lets the Swift slice through tight streets and slip past traffic jams like a true urban ninja. On Carcry, we're breaking down the 2025 Swift from bumper to bumper. From its friendly, rounded body that's cute but not harmless, to the under-the-skin details that make it not just pretty, but practical. You'll laugh, you'll learn, and by the end, you'll know if this is an instant buy or if you should wait for the extra 20 horsepower version to really spice up your life. Oh, and before we hit the gas, smash that subscribe button. Here, we don't just review cars, we review the feeling you get when you spend your hard-earned money on one. Because trust me, feelings are what keep you in love with the car long-term, not just the spec sheet. You know what? The 2025 Suzuki Swift hits the streets with a vibe that says, I don't need bulging muscles, I just need to look good where it counts. And honestly, Suzuki nailed it. Its dimensions are almost unchanged, about 152 inches long, 68 inches wide, and 59 inches tall. That's the sweet spot for a city hatchback. Small enough to pull a full U-turn without kissing another car's mirror, but still roomy enough for 4 adults and a couple of bulky grocery bags. Now, let's talk about the front, the part you'll see first and maybe argue about later. The LED projector headlights sit lower now, which makes the car look wider. The grille's bigger, stretching further down, and honestly, it kind of reminds me of a beluga whale with a little smirk. Not ugly, just the kind of look that grows on you instead of hitting you with instant love. The Suzuki badge, still big and bold, sitting dead center, as if the company's worried you might mistake it for something else. Move to the side, and the big change is the rear door handles. They're back in the traditional spot instead of hiding up in the C-pillar like the last generation. Makes the profile cleaner and, bonus, way easier for kids to open. The 16-inch alloy wheels get a new twin-spoke design. Simple, but it works. A light crease runs from the front fender to the rear, giving the Swift a ready-to-move feel, even when it's parked. But the rear, that's where the 2025 Swift wins me over. New C-shaped LED taillights wrap into the body, bigger and sharper than before, making it easier to spot at night. The rear bumper is rounded off, ditching all the aggressive fake vents and sharp cuts, which makes the Swift look friendlier and, dare I say, a little feminine. The best part? Even with the upgrades, Suzuki kept the drag coefficient low, about 0.33 CD, which means better fuel efficiency at highway speeds. And they did it without turning the Swift into a boring aero box that looks like it came from a wind tunnel factory. Bottom line, the Swift 2025 feels like a girl who just got a fresh haircut. Not a total transformation, but enough for friends to ask, hey, you look different today. And in a world where small SUVs are eating hatchbacks alive, that little touch of charm and softness might be exactly what makes the Swift stand out in the crowd.
The 2025 Swift's engine is the kind that makes you think, this thing's probably just good for grocery runs. But hold on, under that mild-mannered hood is a clever mild hybrid setup, a 1.2-liter 3-cylinder gas engine, code Z12E, paired with an assist motor and a compact lithium-ion battery. Total output? Around 82-83 horsepower, torque about 80 to 83 pound-feet. Not exactly rip-your-face-off numbers like a turbo hot hatch, but remember, this car weighs under 2,200 pounds. Suddenly, it all makes sense. Here's the twist. That electric motor isn't for full EV driving like a full hybrid. It's more like your supportive gym spotter, there when you need a push, quiet when you don't. When you're pulling away from a light or nudging the throttle, the motor adds a bit of torque, smoothing out the lag and saving the gas engine from screaming like a karaoke singer reaching for the high notes. Result? The new Swift responds quicker than before and sips fuel like it's on a diet, about 54-55 mpg WLTP. In city driving, this mild hybrid setup makes the Swift sweet. Smooth takeoffs, light gear changes, and enough pep to slip past that wobbling delivery scooter without feeling embarrassed. On the highway, though, don't expect it to pin you to the seat. The Swift is about lightness and efficiency, not drag racing the guy in the 200-horsepower turbo sedan next to you. Noise-wise, Suzuki's done their homework. 3-cylinder engines can sound a bit grumbly at high revs, but in the 2025 Swift, the cabin stays much quieter. Sure, you'll still hear the engine when you push it, but it's more of a satisfying mechanical hum, not an annoying drone. The new CVT helps too. Simulated gear changes feel natural, none of that endless whining older CVTs were infamous for. Pair that with Suzuki's lightweight, rigid Hertec platform, and you've got yourself a genuine back-alley slalom master. Bottom line, the 2025 Swift won't thrill you with brute force, but it will surprise you with how effortlessly it gets the job done. Calm, efficient, and ready to give you a nudge when you need it. That's the heart of this mild hybrid.
You know that moment when you take your quiet little house cat outside and it suddenly bolts and snatches a bird out of midair? Yeah, the 2025 Swift is exactly that. It doesn't shout, "I'm fast," but when you put it on Suzuki's lightweight, stiff, hard-teched platform, every steering input, every corner, feels sharp and in control. This thing weighs just around 2,095 to 2,140 pounds, giving it that muscle-to-weight advantage that many heavier subcompact sedans just can't match. In the city, a light flick of the steering wheel and the nose changes direction like it's reading your mind. On curves, the body stays flatter than you'd expect, thanks to a retuned suspension that's both smoother and more stable than the last generation. The steering ratio is spot on, not so quick that new drivers feel jumpy, but not so slow that you're cranking the wheel like you're working out your shoulders. That balance makes it a killer in tight city traffic, or squeezing into those cramped parking spots, where the Swift often embarrasses bigger hatchbacks. On the highway, this isn't a car you'll want to sit at 90 miles per hour all day, but cruising at 60 to 70 miles per hour, totally relaxed. Adaptive cruise control and lane departure warning take the edge off long trips. Sure, strong crosswinds can nudge it around a little, it's still a small car, but the solid chassis and stable steering keep you confident. And here's the secret weapon, a turning radius of just 15.7 feet. Sounds boring on paper, but in reality, it's what lets you pull off U-turns and alley maneuvers that would have SUVs sweating. That's why in tight cities across Europe and Japan, the Swift has earned its rep as a true urban assassin. Bottom line, the 2025 Swift won't give you the adrenaline rush of a hot hatch, but it will give you the confidence to weave through gridlock like a pro. It's the lightweight boxer of the car world, not knocking anyone out in one punch, but fast on its feet, hard to hit, and never, ever to be underestimated.
You've heard the phrase small but mighty, right? The 2025 Swift is the living, breathing proof. And this time, Suzuki's on a mission to show the world that a compact hatchback can be just as loaded with toys as the big boys. Step inside, and the first thing that hits you is a 9-inch floating infotainment screen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. No cables, no mess. The sound system? It won't shake your windows like an aftermarket subwoofer, but tweak the EQ and you can go from smooth jazz to EDM without missing a beat. Right below sits the automatic climate control. Clear display, chunky buttons, easy to adjust even while on the move. The leather-wrapped steering wheel, all the controls you need right there. Audio, cruise control, and yes, adaptive cruise control. That's a feature small hatchbacks in this segment couldn't even dream of a few years ago. Add in automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, traffic sign recognition, and lane keeping assist, and suddenly the Swift's safety suite looks a lot like what you'd find in pricier rides. Cabin space? Let's be honest, it's not a limo, but up front, anyone up to about 6 feet tall will fit comfortably. The rear bench works fine for 2 adults or 3 kids. The trunk holds 265 liters, which on paper sounds tiny, but in reality swallows 2 carry-on suitcases plus a couple of shopping bags. Fold the back seats, and you've got room for a weekend's worth of gear. One thing I love, Suzuki didn't go full everything on the screen mode. Physical buttons are still here, meaning when it's raining, your hands are wet, or you're wearing gloves, you can still change the temp or volume without stabbing at a touchscreen like it owes you money. Bottom line, the 2025 Swift doesn't show off tech just for bragging rights. Instead, it picks features that make driving easier, safer, and less tiring. It's like a well-designed smartphone. No bloatware, just the stuff you actually use every day. And that's what keeps you happy long after the showroom shine fades.
So after almost 8 minutes of picking apart the 2025 Swift from bumper to bumper with the Carcry crew, here's the big question. Do you pull the trigger now or hold out for something spicier? On the table right now, fresh, youthful styling, a fuel-sipping mild hybrid engine, a full suite of safety tech, all the daily comforts you actually need, and most importantly, it keeps that compact, light, nimble DNA a real city hatchback should have. If you need a daily driver that slips through traffic, cruises calmly on weekends, and doesn't give you a headache, this is it. It's not the kind of car that makes your neighbors jealous, but it is the kind that makes you stop thinking about replacing it for years. The downsides? 81 horsepower means you might find yourself daydreaming about just 20 more for those moments you want to play with the throttle. Rear seat space and trunk volume aren't ideal if you've got a big family or haul bulky stuff often, but that's the trade-off for having such a small, agile hatch. So, buy or wait. If you're holding out for a hotter Swift, you'll either have to wait for a sport version, if Suzuki even brings it here, or go aftermarket. But if what you want is economy, reliability, and a car that's get in and go, no thinking required, then this one's already good to go. Bottom line, the 2025 Swift is a best friend kind of car, not a dream crush. No flashy drama, no exhausting demands, but the longer you're together, the more you appreciate it. And remember, there will always be a newer model down the line, but the joy of driving only happens when you're actually behind the wheel. All right, that's a wrap for this video. If this review made you smile and gave you something useful to think about, hit that subscribe button. At Carcry, we don't just review cars, we review the feelings you get when you spend your hard-earned cash on one.